The movie begins high above the clouds, in a hidden world where humans were never supposed to go. A group of soldiers carefully moves through a massive forest, trying not to make a sound. Everything around them feels wrong. The trees are gigantic, the ground shakes with every distant movement, and even the animals seem terrified. Then suddenly, Jack notices something. He quickly hides underwater as heavy footsteps echo through the area. A few seconds later, an enormous foot lands right beside him. And when I say enormous, I mean this thing makes elephants look small. Nearby sheep immediately panic and start running in every direction. But before they can escape, the giant grabs one of them and swallows it whole like it's nothing. Jack freezes because at that moment he realizes the stories were true. Giants actually exist. One of the soldiers, hiding behind a tree, slowly turns around to look at the creature, but the giant suddenly sniffs the air. It smelled him. The soldier tries hiding again, hoping the giant didn't notice, but it's already too late. The giant starts walking toward him. The soldier panics and makes a run for it, but against something that massive, there's no chance there's no chance. The giant rips an entire tree out of the ground and throws it aside before smashing the soldier unconscious with one hit. Then it bends down curiously, staring at the human like it's never seen one before. Right before the giant can eat him, Captain Elmont charges in with a sword and stabs the giant straight through the foot. The giant roars in pain and kicks the captain away like he weighs nothing. Then it casually picks up both soldiers to take them away as food. And from a distance, Jack watches the whole thing happen, completely helpless. That's the moment he realizes he made a terrible mistake coming here. But the crazy part is, none of this would have happened if Jack had never gotten those magical beans. A few days earlier, Jack was just a normal farm boy trying to survive after losing his family farm. One day he runs into a strange monk who desperately offers him a handful of magical beans in exchange for a horse. The monk warns him about one thing: never let the beans touch water, and obviously things go wrong immediately. That same night, Princess Isabelle secretly visits Jack because she's tired of being trapped inside the castle all the time. Unlike most princesses, she actually wants adventure. While they're talking inside Jack's wooden house, one of the beans accidentally falls through the floor and touches rainwater beneath the house. At first, nothing happens. Then suddenly, the entire floor starts shaking. Strange noises come from underground. The walls begin cracking apart, and before they can even react, a gigantic vine explodes through the house and shoots straight into the sky. The whole place starts getting ripped apart around them. Isabelle tries escaping, but a table falls on top of her. Jack rushes to save her, but the vines throw him violently outside the house. Inside, Isabelle spots the door and runs toward it, but the vines suddenly slam it shut before she can escape. Jack grabs an axe and desperately starts hacking at the giant vine, trying to stop it. But then, the impossible happens. The entire house gets ripped out of the ground and lifted into the sky. Jack barely manages to grab onto the edge before falling, and within seconds, the house is already thousands of feet above the ground. Jack desperately climbs upward, trying to save Isabelle before it's too late. He finally reaches the door and almost pulls her to safety, but the wooden floor suddenly breaks beneath him. Jack loses his grip and falls 10,000 feet down. As he crashes through vines on the way down, they slow him just enough to keep him alive. But Isabelle isn't so lucky. The giant vine carries her all the way into the sky. The next morning, Jack wakes up injured and immediately finds the king standing nearby with his soldiers. The king is searching for Princess Isabelle. Completely terrified, Jack explains everything and points toward the sky. Everyone looks up in shock at the enormous vine disappearing into the clouds. The king quickly realizes the princess might still be alive up there, so he gathers a rescue team immediately. Jack joins them along with the kingdom's greatest knight, Captain Elmont, and Lord Roderick, a powerful royal advisor who honestly looks suspicious from the second he appears. The group begins climbing the massive vine into the clouds. And this sequence honestly looks amazing. The higher they climb, the worse things get. Storms surround them. Lightning strikes dangerously close to the vines, while powerful winds nearly throw them off. At one point, lightning directly hits a soldier, causing multiple men to lose their grip and fall thousands of feet. Only one rope keeps the remaining soldiers alive. But while everyone struggles to save them, Roderick quietly tells another soldier to cut the rope. The hanging soldiers beg for mercy, but the rope gets cut anyway, and just like that, they disappear into the clouds below. That moment tells you everything you need to know about Roderick. Eventually, the survivors finally reach the top, and honestly, the world above the clouds looks beautiful. Massive waterfalls crash down, enormous cliffs, huge forests stretch across the land. It almost feels peaceful until they notice giant footprints in the ground. Then suddenly, everyone remembers exactly where they are. As they search the area, they find signs that Isabel passed through recently. Broken branches, footprints, even a book Jack had given her earlier. But then they discover something much worse. Huge broken trees and drag marks across the ground. Something took her. The team splits up to search faster. While traveling through the forest, Jack and two soldiers discover a flock of giant sheep near a river. Starving after the long climb, they try catching one for food, but they accidentally trigger a massive trap hidden nearby. Jack and the captain quickly realize something terrifying. The trap wasn't meant for sheep, it was meant for humans. Then the forest suddenly goes silent. Birds fly away. The sheep panic and run, and a few seconds later, a giant appears. The creature grabs the soldiers effortlessly and carries them away, while Jack secretly follows behind, hoping to rescue them. Meanwhile, Roderick continues exploring with the rest of the group. At one point, he tricks another soldier near the edge of a cliff and casually pushes him to his death. No hesitation, no guilt. But before he can continue, a gigantic shadow appears behind him, another giant. Roderick panics and desperately searches through his bag before pulling out something strange, a magical crown. The second the giant sees it, the creature immediately kneels, because this crown has the power to control every giant alive. And suddenly Roderick's true plan becomes clear. He never came to rescue Isabel. He came for power. At the same time, Jack finally discovers the giant's hidden kingdom deep in the mountains. And honestly, the place looks terrifying. Huge bones everywhere, massive cages, fires burning across giant caves. And inside one of those cages, Princess Isabel. Guarding her is the leader of the giants, a horrifying two-headed giant. One head is calm and intelligent, the other acts completely insane, and somehow that makes him even creepier. Soon more giants arrive, carrying Captain Elmont and another soldier as prisoners. The giants begin arguing about which humans they should eat first. One giant suddenly snaps a soldier's neck and swallows him whole right in front of everyone. The movie gets surprisingly dark during these scenes. Then suddenly, all the giants stop and kneel. Roderick has arrived wearing the magical crown. He walks directly toward the two-headed giant and forces him to bow before him. Then he sits on the giant king's throne and announces himself as the new ruler of the giants, and his next goal, invading the human world. The giants immediately start celebrating. To them, this means war is finally coming again. But while Roderick is busy enjoying his new power, Jack sneaks deeper into the giants' camp, trying to rescue Isabel and Captain Elmont before they become dinner. And honestly, the next part of the movie feels more like horror than fantasy. One of the giants grabs Captain Elmont and starts preparing him like actual food. First, he throws him onto a giant table covered in sticky dough. Then he starts rubbing flour and seasoning all over him, while other giants casually watch. Meanwhile, giant pigs are roasting nearby over massive fires. The captain struggles to escape, but the more he moves, the more stuck he gets, and the giant chef doesn't help at all. This dude is genuinely enjoying himself. At one point, he even grabs giant skewers and almost stabs the captain through the chest like he's preparing barbecue. Luckily, Jack, finally reaches them in time. He quietly sneaks over to Isabel's cage, but the lock is too strong to break. So, Isabel tells him to save the captain first before it's too late. Jack crawls across the kitchen area while the giant temporarily walks away to grab vegetables. As soon as the giant disappears, Jack starts cutting the captain free from the sticky dough, but then heavy footsteps return. The giant is coming back. Jack quickly hands the knife to the captain and hides seconds before the giant notices anything. For a moment, it actually looks like they might get away with it, but then the giant grabs the captain again and prepares to throw him directly into the giant oven. At the same time, he pulls Isabel out of her cage and places her onto the table beside him. Now, both of them are seconds away from dying, and this is where Jack finally stops acting scared. The giant raises his knife to cut Isabel, and suddenly Jack jumps from above, holding a massive blade. He drives it straight into the giant's back. The giant screams in pain and crashes around the room, trying to shake Jack off, smashing into walls and pillars while Jack hangs onto the knife for dear life. Finally, the giant collapses and dies. And honestly, this is the moment Jack officially becomes the hero of the movie. Not because he's stronger than everyone else, but because he finally stops running away. After freeing Isabel and Captain Elmont, the three quickly escape toward the giant vine so they can return home before Roderick launches his attack. But there's one problem. A giant guard is sleeping near the exit, and fighting him directly would be suicide. So Jack comes up with probably the weirdest plan in the entire movie. He grabs a giant beehive. Then he and the captain quietly sneak toward the sleeping giant. The captain carefully lifts the giant's helmet while Jack places the entire hive inside. Then they slam the helmet shut and run. A few seconds later, the giant wakes up screaming. Hundreds of bees start stinging him inside the helmet while he crashes around in complete panic. The more he flails around, the worse it gets. Eventually, he stumbles near the edge of a cliff and almost falls off. For 1 second, it looks like he might survive after pulling the helmet off, but then one final bee flies over and stings him directly again. The giant loses balance and falls straight off the cliff, and honestly, that might have been the funniest death in the entire movie. After escaping the camp, Jack and Isabel begin climbing back down the giant vine, but Captain Elmont decides to stay behind. He knows someone has to stop Roderick and take the magical crown away from him before the giants reach the human world. Meanwhile, down on Earth, the king and his soldiers are waiting near the base of the giant vine. Then suddenly, the giant body falls from the sky. Imagine standing there and suddenly watching a dead giant crash into the ground in front of you. Complete chaos breaks out instantly. That's when the king realizes how dangerous the situation truly is. If the giants come down the vine, the entire kingdom is finished. So he gives the order to destroy the giant vine completely. Soldiers hammer massive hooks into the vine while horses and oxen pull with everything they have. Slowly, the giant vine begins tearing apart, but there's a problem. Jack and Isabel are still climbing down. As the vine starts collapsing, both of them nearly fall to their deaths. At the last second, Jack grabs a hanging branch and holds onto Isabel while they swing wildly through the air. Then both of them crash safely into a pile of hay below. But back above the clouds, things are getting even worse. Captain Elmont finally confronts Roderick while the giants prepare for war. During the fight, Roderick accidentally drops several magical beans near water, and immediately giant vines begin growing again. That's when the two-headed giant realizes something important. Even if the main vine gets destroyed, they can simply grow more. The giant grabs the remaining magical beans while Captain Elmont kills Roderick in an intense sword fight. But now, the crown falls back into the hands of the two-headed giant, and unlike Roderick, this creature actually wants destruction. The giant immediately throws the magical beans into water. Within seconds, 4 enormous vines erupt from the ground and shoot down toward the human world. Then, the giant army begins descending. This entire scene honestly feels terrifying. Dozens of giants sliding down giant vines straight toward Earth while screaming through the clouds. Back on the ground, Jack notices them first. He immediately rides toward the kingdom as fast as possible, trying to warn everyone. But before the soldiers can fully prepare, the giants arrive, and the invasion begins. Villages get destroyed instantly. Soldiers are grabbed and eaten alive. Horses panic and throw riders everywhere, while giant creatures smash through buildings like paper. Humans are completely outmatched. One giant even rips apart a windmill and throws the giant blade directly toward the princess. Everything becomes absolute chaos. The surviving soldiers barely manage to retreat back inside the castle before the giant army surrounds it. Captain Elmont quickly orders trenches filled with oil to be lit on fire around the castle walls. Flaming arrows rain through the sky as giant walls of fire erupt around the battlefield. For a moment, it actually looks like the humans might survive. Then the giants start attacking the gates. Massive hooks slam into the castle doors, while dozens of giants pull together trying to rip the entrance apart. Inside the castle, panic spreads everywhere. People are screaming. Soldiers are running through burning hallways. Walls begin collapsing from the impact outside. And during all this chaos, the two-headed giant secretly enters the castle through underground tunnels. Because apparently fire wasn't enough to kill this thing earlier. Jack and Isabel suddenly hear strange noises beneath the floor. Then the ground cracks open. Huge hands burst upward through the stone floor. The two-headed giant has found them. And honestly, this whole chase sequence is intense. Jack grabs Isabel and both of them run through the castle while the giant smashes through walls behind them. Eventually, they reach a dead end, and suddenly the giant grabs Isabel. Jack desperately attacks with an axe, but it barely affects the creature. Then the smaller head starts mocking him while the larger head prepares to kill both of them. And this is where Jack makes the smartest move in the movie. He secretly pulls out one final magical bean hidden inside his necklace. Then he throws it directly into the giant's mouth. Complete it. Then suddenly he grabs his stomach. Something feels wrong. A second later, small vines begin pushing out from inside his body. And then everything goes completely insane. Massive vines explode out of the giant from every direction, tearing through his body and smashing apart the castle walls at the same time. The giant screams, and just before the creature finally dies, the magical crown falls from his hand and lands right beside Jack. Outside, the human soldiers are losing badly. The giant army has already broken through the outer gate and is slowly pushing deeper into the castle. Captain Elmont and the remaining soldiers desperately try holding the line, but it's obvious they can't survive much longer. Then suddenly, every giant stops moving. One by one, they lower their weapons. Then they kneel. At first, nobody understands what's happening. The battlefield goes completely silent, and then everyone sees Jack walking forward, wearing the magical crown. The same crown that controls every giant alive. Even Captain Elmont looks shocked. A few minutes ago, humanity was seconds away from extinction, and now the entire giant army is bowing to a farm boy. Honestly, it's one of the most satisfying moments in the movie. Jack slowly orders the giants to stop fighting, and for the first time, these monsters actually obey peacefully. The war is over. After everything that happened, the surviving giants are sent away from the human world for good. The magical vines connecting both worlds are destroyed, so the giants can never return again. And just like that, the kingdom is finally safe